Hi, I'm Lada from astrolada.com, and this is your weekly horoscope from the 3rd till the 9th of September 2018. And it's important when you listen to those weekly to know your ascendant sign, which is the point of incarnation, basically the physical body, to know also your moon sign and its degrees, and to know your sun sign and its degrees. And if you don't know these, you can enter them at the birth chart calculator. I can put a link here for the birth chart calculator. Enter your time of birth, place of birth, and go to the planetary detail table where you're gonna check the position of the sun, moon, and ascendant, and listen for the predictions for the three of them. uh, this way, we make the predictions much more specific for the person rather than just general for everyone. The same will happen. And if you don't know your time of birth, you can have a rectification done. This is a process of looking at your life back and finding the exact hour and minute of your birth based on events. And my teacher Cvetemira Borisova is making a special on rectification. She's the best one. She's been working for 25 years, just mostly doing rectifications. So if anyone can find your exact time of birth, should be that person. So anyway, this week there are a few big events, and the first one is that Saturn is turning direct, and we're going to speak about that. Yoo-hoo! The last planet turning direct, and that's the most difficult, one of the most difficult, together with Mars. Mars last week turned direct, and we're still feeling it. It's quite intense, but after a week after turning direct, it starts giving us some resolutions. You can check last week's video to see about Mars turning direct, how you can benefit and where things will become easier for you over the next few weeks. But Saturn this week is also turning direct, so things will become easier for you on a few other levels as well. It's again in Capricorn, so in the same area of the horoscope, a bit earlier though, where Mars was. So things are to get a lot more easier for a lot of us, especially for one certain point of our life where the two difficult planets, Saturn and Mars, were retrograde together at the start and at the end of that sign for some time. And we're going to do predictions for the 12 signs based on ascendant, moon, and third sun signs. And the other second event that's happening is that Venus is going into its shadow period, and it's going to be where it's going to become retrograde and come back to around November. But the themes, they're going to be developing till December this year. And the third one is, of course, the new moon in Virgo. We'll speak a little bit about each of those things. So let's start with Saturn going direct on the 6th of September. And according to ancient astrology, 7 days before and 7 days after, Saturn actually intensifies and becomes much stronger. So, some very important events in regards to the Saturn, whatever it's situated in your horoscope, will be taking shape. And I believe already important events there have been taking. Um, have been developing because Mars also turned direct in the same sign. So now the second difficult planet is about to turn direct. So we will get a lot of relief in a certain area of our life. And when Saturn is retrograde, it makes us rework the same lessons over and over. And Saturn becomes retrograde every year at a different part of our horoscope. So at a different part of our life. For about 2 years, Saturn is in the same area of our life, let's say 2.5 years. So we might feel like sometimes we're stuck. And some people might have even bigger houses, so they might feel like a few years of their life they're stuck in something while Saturn transits there and they can't break through. Um, but it's a like inner alchemical reworking that Saturn is doing on a very deep level, on a very introspective, because Saturn is the deep planet. It was known in the ancient times as the wise one. Now we've called it the Great Malefic because it gives blockages and stagnation and feeling stuck, and we hate that in modern society. It gives isolation and loneliness and too many responsibilities and self criticism as well, or criticism from other sides. Actually, Mars is considered way more malefic because it gives sudden, you know, accidents and fights. But doesn't matter. Going back to Saturn, is that while it's retrograde, it gives us the rare opportunity in certain area of our life to go very deep within and to start noticing a pattern. We've been doing it before, but we probably didn't see it so intensely. But when Saturn goes retrograde, it becomes like so we become so entrenched in whatever we're doing and we repeat the same lessons over and over and over to the point where we get sick. And when Saturn starts moving direct, we finally something clicks in our mind, some kind of a almost like we've had enough of the same repetition, we've had enough of eating the same meal, let's say. And it's usually something painful, something that we're ignorant about. Saturn is ignorance and darkness, or something that we were not very self-aware about, that we were not observing ourselves well enough. And when Saturn goes retrograde, the pain intensifies so much in certain area of our life. And we'll speak about possibly where it is for each one of you. But you know, even if you don't know where Saturn is in your horoscope, you know that you've been repeating some lesson for the last, almost like a year, especially when Saturn went retrograde in the last 4 or 5 months. And you're stuck in, everyone is stuck. It might be on psychological, financial, emotional level, depending where Saturn is passing in your horoscope. And you're feeling like, oh, this will never end, and that's so much pain. I can't handle that, or so much like, bleh, like stagnation and feeling unworthy, or feeling like things will never get better, or things. Saturn is the planet of luck, like feeling something is really lacking in certain area of your life, and it kind of keeps repeating and repeating, and it's not enough. It might be like feeling of lack in a relationship, feeling of lack in self-worth, feeling of lack in self-care, health-wise, and it's due to ignorance. It's due to some. Saturn also rules past pains that is deeply entrenched in us. And when Saturn transits certain area of our life, this past pain awakens these past fears from past lifetimes. We've experienced everything in past lifetimes. We've been kings, paupers, we've been rapers and raped, and oh my God, sorry for giving such extreme examples. And those wounds are there in the subconscious. And when Saturn transits certain area of our lives, it might be relationships, or it might be the addictions, or it might be, these fears start rising very much to the surface. We become very serious about those things. We become very, kind of even defensive. We try to build a wall to protect ourselves, or even, to turn a blind eye to it. But it repeats over and over and over until we, especially when Saturn is retrograde, until we kind of feel like a beaten dog, and we have no chance, no option but to release some of this fear and to start moving on again. And that starts happening when Saturn changes direction. So the harsh lessons Saturn's been teaching us for a few months in a certain area of one's life, which intensified while Saturn was retrograde, and which felt like maybe there is no exit out of them, now they'll start loosening up. And now something like the alchemical process of Saturn, and he works with heavy, with a heavy hand, will start making its magic, this alchemical transformation in the subconscious. So some of those, because those fears that you had, they came to the surface, where you faced them, you worked through them, or you repeated them to the point of getting sick, and to the point of actually burning away with that ignorance, and recognizing it consciously. Now you'll be able to break away from that repeating pattern and stagnation, and you'll start noticing that over the next 2-3 weeks after Saturn turns direct. Actually, the week before it turns direct and the week after, those things can intensify because Saturn becomes stronger. They can, this kind of ignorance, or this repeating pattern, or this something that's been beating us, or that's been blocked or delayed in our life, or something that feels like it's not enough, or something that feels like pain in the ass, or something like feels like too much responsibility, or like you feel overwhelmed that you can't handle it. It's too much to sitting as a heavy cloud on top of you. You're feeling like Atlas there carrying the world in some way, or you just feel like so stiffened with some situations. Well, it might first intensify to the level where a tipping point comes, and then it will start relaxing, and then like this magic has happened inside of you, and you can start moving away from a certain set of problems in your life, from a certain set of blockages, from a certain set of self-beating situations, or situations that kind of very, because Saturn slows everything down, makes it heavy, makes it full of more responsibility. So for Aries, for example, this might have something to do with authority figures, some mistakes they've been doing with father figures, with institutions, with bosses, maybe some repeating pattern of a very heavy boss or heavy authority figure that was playing the role of Saturn, to to develop structure, discipline, to push you to develop more self-awareness in your career and social status, maybe some very heavy responsibilities in regards to your career, now will start loosening off and becoming easier over the next 2 3 weeks, but they first might escalate, don't forget. And or some kind of a complicated situation or some delay in regards to some career project or some stuck situation in regards with a job, for example. You couldn't, maybe some career project or maybe some job or some very difficult situation with a boss or father figure or authority figure will start resolving itself and you can start moving. And it's not that it's magically out of the blue. You've done the inner work of repeating this over and over, and the universe believes now Saturn's moving direct that it's drummed it enough into your head and that there's been some slight change. Next time in 30 years, okay. Okay, then if you're Taurus, it's happening in your ninth house. Your belief systems might have been reworked and maybe you examined them very deeply. Mars retrograde is about going very introspective insight, and maybe even there was some kind of, you might have felt disappointed with your belief system and till now, and you were reworking it and you were leaving behind the necessary things that were blocking you. But you might have felt also that there is some that, because ninth house is our outlook on the world, and maybe you felt a bit dour and a bit more negative in some way. But Saturn was helping you, and Saturn is helping you from Taurus, especially from Capricorn with a trine aspect. So those belief systems that you've been reworking, they are helping you become much more stable in life, and they're helping you implement um, some shifts in your consciousness, in your higher mind, which is the ninth house, which will help you stabilize yourself and help you with your personal goals in life, uh, and to become a more settled and respected person, so to speak. But also some complicated issues with foreign travel, with documents connected to legalization of something. Ninth house is the law. If there was some complicated situation with judges or with the law, it can start. Um, like the lesson has been learned, and in the next, it first might escalate, but in the next 2 3 weeks, it starts easing and you start moving forward. If there are some delays with the university or some kind of testing things connected to higher education, to pre-qualification. Maybe you're not in university, but ninth house rules the pre-qualifying in some sort. Maybe you had to work very hard on some new skills, on some new, higher knowledge or degree of some sort, and now it will start becoming easier. Maybe there was some worries or stagnation in regards to higher education, in regards to traveling to foreign countries as well. Okay, and if you're a Gemini, Saturn starts moving direct in your eighth house. So if there was some stuck up situation in regards to receiving insurances money or inheritance money or wills or something to do with taxation money, there was some complicated situation, or money that is owed to you or you owe to another person, so other people's resources. So maybe there was some stagnation with the money of your partner. Maybe he was not receiving, he got a pay cut or something, or he didn't have money, or maybe your business partner or some client has been delaying some money of yours, or a bank, or some resources that you're relying on them, some supplies of some sort that is other people's. Now it will start, it might first escalate, but it will, it's like the lesson has been learned and it will start moving forward. So this situation will get resolved. Plus, if there was some stagnation in your sexual life with intimacy, especially when Saturn transits, especially when it's retrograde, the eighth house, people put more walls on intimacy and they're reworking internally their fears, which don't allow them to open themselves to another for a deep, intimate bonding, which reflects also on sexual inadequacy or feeling like stuck in that situation, or feeling like this deep bonding sexual connection is missing or is really starved. So something's been happening, maybe for some of you, some difficult situation there that you'll be able to start releasing and moving beyond there, so the intimacy can be more solid now. And hopefully you learn the lesson, so you don't have to be stagnant there anymore. But there's another year and a half of Saturn in the eighth house, so it will be, when it goes retrograde, it will go deeper again to another level. Then if you're uh, Cancer, it's in your seventh house. So if Saturn is turning direct in your seventh house, what there are some delays with for you with signing contracts or with agreements of some sort, business partnerships or personal partnerships. Maybe there was maybe a partner of yours was becoming too demanding, putting too much pressure on you, or maybe you were becoming like that in a relationship, and maybe a relationship was strained or it was kind of felt stagnant or stuck in some way. It might be personal or business relationship or with a friend or someone very close, one to one, or maybe the relationships in your life were mostly based on some kind of responsibilities and duties or work, because Saturn rules those things. Well, now when Saturn, they might escalate the first 2 weeks of Saturn starting to move the, changing direction. Some important event will happen in regards to relationships with others, personal or business. Uh, but after that, it's like release. You start moving ahead. As I said, if there was stagnation in such relationship or too much pressure on you, or if your partner was becoming too mean or critical, or some other people were becoming too mean or critical, you've reworked something, you repeated those lessons, it will be released, this tension, and you start moving forward with those things or past those problems. And uh, Sometimes it can mean like that you had to work very intensely on some relationship, that you had to put a lot of effort. It might be a business partnership, and usually Saturn Day gives a lot more business partnerships and on serious topics, And but even on your personal ones, something had to be reworked. And if you manage to sort out that problem, cancers, you're gonna move ahead with less pain about that relationship and with deeper commitment together with this partner, because you're past those problems and you burn some of the ignorance in regards to relationships and contracts and promises. And if you couldn't, maybe you just eliminated some people from your life and now Saturn starts moving direct, you'll be able to kind of start moving ahead as well. And this pain won't be so, if you had to break certain partnerships and agreements, the pain won't be as strong and you'd feel like more released and more. But again, give it a couple of weeks, it might first intensify. If there's pain, grief in regards to relationship, you kind of reworked it, the suffering, you released it, and you start to move. Saturn also rules time, so time heals, and now is the time when healing intensifies, when Saturn turns direct. If you're Leo, Saturn turns direct in your sixth house. If there was some delay with the work project, with career, if there was some delay in finding a job, if you've been working very hard but you can't find the job, Saturn starting to move direct might actually unblock that situation. Also, if you're working on some project very hard and you have to repeat over and over and fix things, and maybe you're given too many responsibility that overwhelmed you at work, maybe you have to stay much more longer hours when Saturn is transiting the sixth house, especially retrograde. But of course, you're being toughened in regards to your duties and responsibilities, and in regards to service, to burn ignorance, and to burn in regards to giving service, helping others, but also work, employment of some sort. And if the conditions that employment place were maybe too demanding or hostile or kind of uh, it's just maybe too draining, or too dry or too much pressure, they'll start again becoming easier and easier. Plus, Leo's, the sixth house rules health problems. If some, especially more chronic condition has intensified recently for you in the last few months, now again, they can be, it's almost like you burn that karma, because often health problems are here because of ignorance, how we treat our body, and it teaches us to respect our body more and to be more careful. So you burn some of the karma about that, and suffering later starts creating more wisdom. So some resolution, some relief from a health condition or from a complicated even addiction. Sixth house can rule self-medicating, and situations of addiction can start getting resolved and can start giving you a release, and can be the thing will stop repeating now. There will be some release, but first it might escalate over the next 2-3 weeks, and then it will start easing. But especially health conditions that are more chronic or that are stiffening, that are about rigidity, that are about Saturn is drying, cooling, stiffening, crystallizing of some sort. And some health habits as well. Maybe you're working very hard on some to change, to transform a routine when Saturn was retrograde. Maybe to start eating differently, to exercise differently, doing some treatments, health treatments. Maybe these now, when Saturn starts moving direct, will start giving effect. So you no longer have to be, you know, uh, it will become easier to perpetuate those. They will become ingrained. While it was retrograde, they were getting implemented deep into you. And now, when it starts moving direct, Saturn in your sixth house, those new health habits start giving results, plus start becoming more deeply easy to to deeply ingrained in your life, whatever. All right. If you are Virgo, Saturn is starting to move direct in your fifth house, and if you are having some delays or blockages or complications with lovers and about your romantic and love life, these again might first escalate when Saturn is changing direction. Some very important event in regards to those can happen connected to commitment. Saturn on the highest level is deeper commitment, on the lowest level is letting go of someone, because Saturn is depicted with a scythe, the death with a scythe. So whatever is dead root comes and chops it. Just like for cancers in the seventh house, this what you might have been doing in the past 5 6 months is cutting off some relationships from your life. The same way for Saturn, uh, for Virgo, because the fifth house, love life, you are doing some deep examination through suffering of some sort, or through um, some blockage in regards to your love life, how you give and receive love. Or in regards to children, maybe there were some heavy responsibilities connected with children that were very demanding and draining. Saturn starts moving, something important happens, Saturn starts moving direct, and within a couple of weeks, it relaxes, it starts becoming easier, more uh, routinized. You learn how to take bigger responsibility and out of your comfort zone in regards to children or lovers or romantic life or some creative project. Maybe you are working very heavy with lots of responsibility on something creative, or maybe your creativity was blocked for some way. As I said, Saturn rules anything that is blocking. Well, it was the case. If that was the case, then um, when Saturn starts moving direct, sorry about that. When Saturn starts moving direct, uh, creative outlet will start also flowing easier. Or if you work very hard on some creative project, you might be able to release it now, to start seeing the results of it in some way. All right, if you are Libra, Saturn is moving direct in your fourth house. So, if there were some heavy responsibilities and duties in regards to taking care of parents, a family, of parenthood responsibilities that were overwhelming you a bit, that were pushing your limits and boundaries, that felt like, oh, I'm forever going to be stuck in those duties and responsibilities, and this kind of slow situation and home and family, personal life were too heavy. Well, again, Saturn starts moving direct, and those responsibilities and duties start getting more relieved. You've learned the lesson of repeating some lesson in regards to home, to property, to place of living, to parenthood, to parents, extended family as well. Maybe there were some complications with matters regarding land or gardens, or matters regarding agriculture, or some heavy duties and responsibilities, or matters regarding property. Then you start seeing the results of that hard work. Maybe you are fixing something, in your home for the past few months, or building a home, and it felt overwhelming. And now Saturn is there to teach us to be more responsible, to be more serious about something, of course, to burn the ignorance, and to be methodical and practical and grounded. So if you approach the matters of home and family and property in such a matter, if you fulfill your duties and responsibilities, now Saturn turning direct will give you some kind of a reward, let's say, and some kind of a relief as well. But difficult situation in regards to that, or some stagnation and blockage to relocation, or to moving place of living, properties, and all those things, they start relieving and resolving themselves. Uh, on another level, if you're Scorpio, Saturn is starting to move direct in your third house over the next 2 3 weeks. That's great news if there was some delays or complications with matters regarding papers or documents, with matters regarding communications, some complications or blockages with communications, and especially commercial businesses ruled by the third house. But Saturn transiting there is quite happy, even when it's retrograde, because we managed to get especially if you're in some administrative or office work or business, if you're connected in any business of any sort where you're communicating with others, going to meetings, scheduling appointments, writing, speaking, making reports, working in media of any sort as well, advertising, marketing, you know, any such careers that with communication, with the internet, with writing and speaking, with business meetings, with sales, third house, with commercial activities. Well, maybe those things were either blocked, or there were too much heavy responsibilities, or they were too kind of um, intense on you, and maybe there were some delays there, or maybe you had to work extra hard with new duties and responsibilities in regards to that, so you might have felt like, it's too much. Well, now Saturn starts moving direct, and you start seeing the results of those efforts that you've put, or some kind of, and you've learned to be much more resilient and much more hardworking and responsible, and to under pressure to deal with situations regarding sales, business, all those kind of communications. A lot of you are also revising their communication style, and they possibly even stop talking to certain people, especially if they consider it's kind of superficial and it's kind of a waste of time, because Saturn is no nonsense. So there was some deep reevaluation of your communications, the people that you communicate on a daily level with, colleagues, workmates, playmates of any sorts, friends even. And I've noticed that when Saturn is in the third house, especially when it goes retrograde, people decide not to be anymore, not to waste time and their words on insubstantial, talk of some sort or gossip. And usually, if they do, they kind of get slammed and hit by Saturn. So, and possibly they also remove certain people from their life, as I said, colleagues, and they can be intensification of problems in the life of in relationships with them between colleagues and relatives and workmates and flatmates, and and if there was such intensification of problems between your relationships in their life, when Saturn starts moving direct now, things will improve. They'll get easier. Um, some of those problems will be left behind. Plus, maybe you are learning some new skills that you had to work extra hard on to deeply ingrain in you while Saturn was retrograde. And now, when it starts moving direct, it's almost like you know them by heart. And it's almost like those skills are no longer an effort for you to perform or to, it starts happening naturally. Okay, so if you're then Sagittarius, Saturn is starting to move direct in your second house. So if there was some complications or some inadequacy in regards to your self-worth, maybe in how lovable you feel, how deserving you feel, how um, for how deserving you feel to receive, and how deserving you feel, how you evaluate yourself. Maybe you are going under heavy introspection while Saturn was retrograde in regards to your self worth, self value. What are you worth? And maybe there was, though, this process is often accompanied by some complications in finances, because finances reflect our self worth. And when there are complications, it's either we're overestimating ourselves or underestimating. So Saturn comes either to humble us or to, again, to show us that, to make us like, I can't bear anymore that you're not, I'm not receiving, I'm not taking my self-worth, I'm not valuing myself enough, or I'm valuing the wrong things, the wrong gods, I'm valuing the wrong, you know um, things. So something has been reworked in your brain about that, or even giving you a lot of aggravation, and suffering about that. But when it starts moving direct, you kind of start, you've resolved this problem, you start moving ahead, and you start, your self-worth is hopefully on a more stable foundation now, rather than something superficial, because Saturn wants to bring us very stable and enduring foundations. Self-worth not because how you look, or self-worth on how much money you have, but it's become deeper. Plus, maybe it gave some financial stagnation or delays of resources, or having to work extra hard for certain financial resources. But if there was such complications in regards to money and resources, they start getting resolved and you start moving forward. Of course, Saturn will be in your second house another year and a half, but or a bit longer. But a certain set of problems in regards to uh, resources, values, self worth, and money has been resolved. So you're graduating to the next level. And the next examination period will be again when Saturn goes retrograde in your second house next year with a higher intensity, and hopefully also when it starts moving direct, better results. So maybe now when it starts moving direct, if you've worked very hard for something, this you have a easier and much easier access to that pool of resources than while it was retrograde, and you receive some kind of reward if you've worked hard, which is on a material way, in a material tangible way in regards to those efforts you put. Okay, and if you're Capricorn, of course, Capricorn is starting to move direct in your first house. Especially the December born Capricorn will feel a considerable release over the next few weeks. Or Capricorns that have their ascendant in the first 10 degrees, or moon in the first 10 degrees. So, of course, if you don't know your time of birth, you can't know the degrees. If you need a rectification, the best professional I know with 20 years experience, and I guarantee you, money back guaranteed if you're not satisfied, is Cvetemira Borisova. I'm putting links for her, my teacher of 25 years doing rectifications. A little bit of advertisement, all business. So Saturn is starting to move direct in your first house, in your own sign, Capricorn. So Capricorns will, for a lot of them, especially the first 10 days or the first 10 degrees, things were quite tough and quite demanding in the past, let's say 5-6 months, especially 5 months when Saturn's been retrograde. Maybe they had to repeat over and over certain lessons. Maybe they felt like there's stagnation in their life, and they're they're about to materialize something, to give birth to something new. Because Saturn transiting your sign once every 29 years, you're building new foundations for life, new beginnings. But when Saturn went retrograde, something got delayed or something got blocked, or it's almost like, I'm almost there to get on the other side of this new beginning, but it's like in a dream trying to walk, like to run, and you can't do it because Saturn slows down everything, because you have to repeat certain lessons over and over. And often Saturn will humble us. And certain Capricorns have been humbled. Um, but the good thing is that Saturn is your planet, so it's never gonna hurt you as much. It's working for you to help you manifest Capricorn for the next 2 years, to manifest a really stable overall foundation in your life with a new beginning, especially Capricorn rules new social status and career on a material level, to give you a powerful new beginning. But as everything, Saturn is doing it through a lot of hard work, is doing it through very slowly, just like when you build foundations of a house, you don't see them, they take 3 times as longer than the rest of the house. And then, but now you're doing the foundations. So and often it comes with increased set of duties and responsibilities, increased inner self-criticism or some pressure from outside. But because in the first house, usually you're the one putting the pressure on you, your inner critic increases a lot, you're beating yourself up, you're trying to push yourself in a new direction. And sometimes we need to get that serious. You're already serious, Capricorn, but now Saturn in your sign makes you like, okay, now it's time to work. No more postponing, no more laying off things, no more waiting around. Now it's time to work and build those new foundations. And I know a lot of Capricorns that have been having amazing results. They started taking care of your body, working out, Capricorn sun, moons, or ascendants. They started getting very serious about their career or about their health. Some of them, as everything Saturn, might have brought you some complications with health, especially Saturnian, like joints, stiffening, bones, or some chronic conditions, some cold conditions as well, some drying conditions. But again, it's about taking responsibilities in your hands, because Saturn, all it wants to teach us is that, and to burn off some of the ignorance about how we've been treating our body, if it's the ascendant or the sun as well, and the moon. It also rules the body in different areas. But basically, it is the whatever's been putting pressure on a lot of you Capricorns now, inner criticism, outer restricted circumstances, or some kind of Saturn would put us in a box and make us work very hard, or make us have super heavy responsibilities and duties. These start relaxing. So some very complicated or painful situation as well for some of you, because we through Saturn we burn karma, which is the ignorance of past lifetimes. Not like we're evil souls. No one is evil. In the bottom, we do evil things because of ignorance or because we're in too much pain. So we're burning while Saturn's transiting some of this ignorance, and so we start moving ahead with much more um, wisdom, maturity, more humbled, but much more responsibility and productivity and personal responsibility towards things. And Capricorns do this the best. So basically, for you Capricorns, especially the earlier born Capricorns, you start feeling a tremendous release, and you start seeing the results, maybe almost like the foundations that of this house, new house that you're building, you know, is starting to give results, or you start to, it's finally finished, you can start building the rest of the house. But it will take, it first will escalate. So for you the direction of life will totally change from more difficult to more productive, and starting to see results now when Saturn turns direct, and starting to kind of again get more uh, things to start to be more in control of you, and to start moving forward again. So stop repeating the same things over and those delays disappearing. Okay, and some complicated situation in your life will turn for the better in a positive direction, or will be released and removed from your life. And of course, if you are Aquarius, it's happening in your 12th house. It's almost like some kind of 12th house is always very quite unconscious. It's our blind spot. We don't see it. It's connected to past lifetimes. It's connected to the subconscious. It's connected to habits of self-undoing. It might be addictions. It might be self-sabotaging behaviors of some sort. It might be 12th house is the house where we have to let go of the past. So maybe when Saturn was retrograde, you were reworking something in your subconscious that makes you fearful about letting go of something. It might be a bad habit, it might be a relationship, it might be some part of your life that you've outlived already. 12 houses for the next year and a half further. While Saturn is still in our 12th house as Aquarius, rising for me at least, for the next couple of years, we're letting go of a big part of us will die. Not in a scary way, but in a releasing way, like a burden we've been carrying around and thinking, oh, that's us, that's part of our identity, even for many lifetimes, some self sabotaging behaviors and fears, or, they will be released. But with Saturn, this process, Saturn is there with the scythe. Remember, Saturn is depicted by a scythe to release us from those self sabotaging behaviors and this burden of this old part of our life. But while Saturn goes retrograde, we kind of, we get scared again. And we go back and we start maybe thinking too much about the past, or identifying with the past, and kind of clinging on. The process of releasing is more painful and difficult. And maybe you feel like, I'll never be released from that. I'm stuck in a certain situation with the past. But it's an alchemical, slow process. And believe me, by the end of this, now already, when Saturn starts moving direct, you would start be able to release something that you were holding on to, and you start moving ahead. But something in particular that was harming you, that was no longer productive for your life, that is not part of your identity anymore, it's not part of your path. Some fear or some fear-based behaviors that are stemming from many past lifetimes, so almost for the past 29-year cycle, that they'll be released and they'll be transmuted. And Saturn, especially when it gets you stuck, that's when the deepest transmutation is happening. You're thinking, I'm stuck and things are not moving on, and I'll always be stuck with this situation, this thing. But actually, there is the deep healing that is happening, the deep burning of karma, as I said. Sometimes subconsciously, especially because it's the 12th house, these self-sabotaging behaviors are subconscious, plus the reworking of those self-sabotaging behaviors, they're happening almost imperceptibly, until you realize at one moment that you're free of this behavior or this situation, or that you're released a lot of things. But with Saturn, everything becomes slowly. But over the next 2-3 weeks, you start seeing that you're getting unstuck from some past behavior of some sort. Okay. Not only behavior, but situations. And if you're Pisces, Saturn is starting to move direct in your 11th house, which is fantastic, because if you work towards, and Saturn loves being in the 11th house, it usually tends to fulfill some goal, some long-term goal and dream of ours through our own hard work. You may be able to see the full results of it when Saturn comes out of Capricorn in a year and a half, but already, if you've been working hard on some goal, a long-term plan, a long-term dream of yours, socio-economic goal, now, and especially if the responsibility in regards to that were very heavy, and if there are especially responsibilities with large groups of people, with networks of people, uh, with large systems and institutions of some sort, uh, you know, these responsibilities will start giving results. But any kind of social economic goal that we're working towards is the 11th house, and Saturn, it's a house of Saturn. Saturn likes working hard there. Uh, and it will start giving you start the payoff now, or seeing small results at least over the next few weeks. Or if there was some blockage in regards to achieving some honor or title, some delay there, 11th house is recognition, honor, titles, gainfulness. Maybe there was some delay about receiving certain gains from somewhere as well. Maybe you had to work extra hard for them, but now it will. But with Saturn, everything you have to put a lot of hard work, and usually, especially when it's retrograde and it starts giving the rewards, always equal only and proportionate only to the efforts that you've put. Jupiter can give a lot more than the efforts you've put, but Saturn always equal proportionate to the efforts that you've put. So now some complications in regards to gainfulness or resources. So not resources so much as the fruits of your, especially the remuneration for some hard work that you did, like bonuses or recognition, or you can it can come to you when Saturn starts moving direct. Also, if there was some complications or delays with friends or social groups or clubs, or organizations and membership clubs of some sort, if there was some kind of difficult situation there, it starts getting resolved and it starts moving on much easier. Or if there were some complications in the life of your friends, they were with a difficult spot, maybe you had to reevaluate certain friendships and let go of certain friends as well when Saturn was retrograde. And now it starts moving direct, or maybe they let go of you, maybe they moved to live somewhere else. That's what happened when Saturn was retrograde in my horoscope. But the good thing is that when Saturn starts moving direct now, maybe the pain starts healing, or you kind of have accepted the situation and start moving on with your life as well. Or you've kind of regurgitated the loss of that friend and you move ahead as well. Oh, you may be just you might be much happier, because that's what happened to me. I separate myself from many people. They're still lovely, wonderful people, but it was no longer productive for my life, and I felt liberated, to be honest. Okay, so we did Saturn going direct for the 12 signs, but we have two more events happening, and I want to quickly speak about them. Let me just move things a little bit. I hope you can see me. There is the sun behind me. Maybe I should do this actually. Yeah, that's easy. Maybe you see me now. So, so the other thing that is happening is that Venus is entering its shadow period. Hey, baby. Hey, other baby. Hey, Snitch. You alive? You alive? So, sorry, that's my family. We all got things next to each other for the summer. I wanted to show you also the view here. Just a second before we start going Venus retrograde, a Venus shadow period. You see, this is absolutely stunning. That's where I get my inspiration, guys. But I haven't been able to because so many responsibilities. All right, so Venus is going into its shadow period from this week. And what this means is that actually Venus is starting to pass over the degrees, which will also, when it goes retrograde, it will pass over them again. So some issues that will have to rework there. And this will be happening when Venus goes retrograde. The whole process is about 3-4 months. The moment it starts moving over those degrees, then it turns direct, passes over them, then it turns retrograde, passes over them, and then turns direct again and passes for the third time over those degrees. That's the whole period. So it's not just the retrograde period that you do some important work with that area of your life and house. uh, it starts already during the shadow period. So you start noticing, guys. You start noticing certain thoughts, certain developments from next week, certain uh, just feelings. So maybe someone will mention something to you, something will come into your life that will be of Venusian nature, and that you'll be working extra hard on when it goes retrograde over the next, let's say, 3-4 months. And actually, Venus retrograde can give a lot of good things as well, because it becomes like a really prolonged Venus transit. As we know, Venus is a benefic. So it can, by the end of this Venus retrograde, so by December somehow, we can have amazingly positive results in certain areas of our life. We'll speak about that in the later videos. I can't go through the 12 signs again, but just to mention that people to be most aware, that will feel it the most and they have to start paying attention from this week, are the cardinal signs, and especially Libras and Aries, and secondly Capricorn and Taurus. But the later born Libra and Aries and Capricorn and Taurus, those that are from the 12, 13 onwards, 12, 13 of their respective months. Or basically, if you have anything, your ascendant, sun, or moon, of course, if you don't know your time of birth, you can get a rectification. I'll put someone who does rectifications. Uh, get to the birth chart calculator, see the degree of your ascendant or sun or moon. Well, if you have a sun, moon, or ascendant in those 4 degrees in the last five those 4 signs, the last 5 signs from basic degrees, from around 20, I would say from around 23 degrees to around 30 degrees. Anyone in cardinal signs, especially Libra, Aries, Capricorn, and Cancer, later born, basically Capricorn, Cancer, with the sun, with the moon, you have to look at the degrees and the ascendant. Well, they will feel this effect most strongly. But everyone has Libra somewhere where Venus goes into its shadow period in their horoscope and where it's going to be retrograde. We'll speak about that in another video. So stay tuned on one of the weeklies again. But just to pay attention, you're going to start, something is going to start happening, and you start noticing something happening in regards to already from next week. In regards to relationships, Venus rules relationships, in regards to money, in regards to self-worth, in regards to how you express your beauty, clothes, fashion, shopping, in regards to how you express art and beauty, the music you listen to, the food that you prefer to eat, the way that you like to dress, how do you put up your makeup. It might be something something small as that you start noticing something. Maybe something new will appear into your life in regards to those things that you'll be integrating and working to integrate into your life over the next 4 months after that, when Venus goes retrograde. But maybe some new um, artistic inspiration can come, a new sense of beauty, a new sense of what you find attractive can start appearing and taking your attention. This is for everyone, you know. Maybe some new relationship can appear as well that will be worked upon and integrated from your life or removed from your life when Venus goes retrograde. So pay attention for new women coming into your life, Venus, new kind of relationships that are appearing, personal or business, contractual of any sort, Venus's agreements of any sort. Pay attention to someone telling you something, or you start to think suddenly about your self-worth and what are you worth. Generally, Venus rules your self-worth and self-love, and you might start just noticing things that maybe you read an article and hear something on Facebook or on YouTube that makes you think about your self-worth, how much you're worth, how valuable you are, how lovable you are, and of course, whether you're overestimating or underestimating yourself. It might also be about you starting to get a new sense of beauty, so you want to rework either your image over the next 3-4 months, or you might want to rework your whole value system, what you consider beautiful, what you consider valuable. Maybe some valuables can appear into your life now. Possession of something beautiful, precious, or something desirable, which is what Venus rules. That, again, that will have a much more important impact on you than you expect currently, and that will become very important for the next few months. And of course, it's a relationship with women, or generally love relationship, where there is mutual respect or give and receive in relationships. This will be reworked much. This will, something will appear in you that will trigger very important psychological or even outer life transmutations in your life. Or maybe if you're already in a relationship, a new phase can start in your relationship. You can start noticing some things, pleasant or unpleasant. Some thoughts can start coming to you, and for example, you might, this Venus retrograde period might give you much deeper love towards your partner, to rediscover your love. Or it might be the opposite. You might have been avoiding uh, certain behaviors of your partner that are undervaluing you, or that are undervaluing themselves in some way, and this, you start noticing them more and more now from this week. Certain things will, like an inkling, like a thought, but they will deepen into the autumn, into September, October. These things will deepen, and especially if a relationship is not really healthy, it can be business or personal with a girlfriend. This will have to be reevaluated and rediscussed during Venus retrograde. But on another level, you can just the opposite find, and someone from the past, but it's not yet. People from the past are not coming yet when Venus starts coming retrograde. But first, the first part of this before Venus goes retrograde, it's things that some thoughts start coming into you, some new ideas, some thoughts, some experiences. You hear something, you read that is connected to self-worth, to beauty, to artistic expression, your what you find beautiful, to relationships, to women in your life, to money, and to finances, that later on you will reevaluate. These things will incline you to make a deep reevaluation, and by the time Venus retrograde finishes, you'd have a value system on a higher level. You'd have much more reworked and better functioning self-worth, or a relationship with money and finances and valuable and resources. Of course, the process of reworking it, it's like painful, like everything that you have to destroy and build again, um, or it might be quite eye-opening, but the process is starting from next week, that you start noticing certain things that would be in regards to all those Venusian things that you would integrate over the following months. And the last thing is that we have a new moon on the 9th of September, on the last day of this week, in Virgo. So the sun and the moon are together in the very discriminating and critical Virgo, as we know, but also very practical, and it sees the truth for what it is. But the sun and the moon are opposed by Neptune. So there is how I feel it and how I see it, because sometimes it can be big deception, but because both the sun, the two windows of consciousness, the sun and the moon, the personal consciousness, the higher consciousness, the moon is the personal, the sun is, the moon is soul, the sun is spirit. How you perceive the two windows, how we perceive reality, are opposed by Neptune. So there can be some very deceptive behaviors. But because they're in the sign of Virgo, Virgo is extremely discriminating. Virgo is the sign through which we learn to discriminate truth from untruth, fact from fiction. And Virgo feels which is the practical and real one and which is not. But Neptune is the opposite. Neptune is like self-deceptions, illusions, especially since it's making an opposition from Pisces, which is again a very I live in my own world sign, which can be fantastic for some things. But basically, this new moon over the next 2 weeks um, is going to influence us over the next 2 weeks. But it will be about realizing something we've been lost about, something we've been confused about, something someone has deceived us, because it's an opposition. Often someone else presented something to us that is not exactly the truth, and you'll be able to discriminate it over the next 2-3 weeks with this moon in Virgo, which new moon in Virgo, which will affect us for 2 weeks ahead. So there will be some powerful practical discrimination of some self-deceptive behavior, so especially self-deceptive behaviors from others, uh, or some kind of maybe ambivalent behaviors from others, or because Neptune says one thing, does another. So we'll recognize those things now. And Virgo is a no nonsense sign, and it says new beginning, because new moon is about new beginning. New beginning. I'm not allowing those deceptive behaviors affect me anymore, from this person or from that situation, or maybe you are very confused about something. And again, I can quickly say for each sign what it is, but some confusion, for example, for Aries might be some lack of boundaries in regards to taking care of their health, or some deception or self deception and confusion in regards to your how you're taking care of your health habits, or your work, or maybe some um, inconsistencies in regards to work. There will be, you become clear about them, and you put some new beginning there, that you discriminate in regards to those, to work habits, to workmates. For Taurus, it's happening in their fifth house. This full moon, sorry, this new moon. So if there was some deception in regards to their love life, they might discriminate it now, uh, or from children, some or confusion or lack of direction in which way to go. Uh, the kind of something can happen that they put a new beginning in regards to love, and or even lack of direction or confusion or inconsistency in regards to a creative process or creative project. Now they discriminate more, and they're able to release those confusions. So this, not only release them, but place a new beginning to move away from them. And if you're Gemini, it's happening in your fourth house. So some inconsistencies or some confusions in regards to, or maybe some, uh, you know, delusions and self-deception, or some hidden information in regards to family, place of living, property, can come to your more discriminative critical thinking. Through critical, because Virgo is critical thinking, through critical thinking, you'd be snapped out of some deception or some ambivalent situation in regards to family, home, property, of some sort. And then if you're Cancer, it's happening in your third house. This is your relationships with sibling, relatives, teammates, co-workers, playmates. So through some kind of criticism, even, or some discriminative awareness, you'd put a new beginning. If there was some deception there, you'd find out, or some ambivalence, or they saying one thing but doing another thing, you'd kind of say, okay, I'm trying to discriminate, put a new beginning. I'm not gonna allow this kind of permissiveness to happen there, or this kind of ambivalence. And or maybe you might be the one who was towards, promising one thing to your sister or to your workmate, but actually kind of not doing exactly the work that you do. So there is some discrimination that you're called out on, or that you call out someone on, uh, from people with your life, that puts like new behaviors there. And of course, if you're Leo, it's in your second house, some deceptive or behaviors, or lack of discrimination in regards to resources and finances, maybe some kind of lack of control in resources and finances. So you were thinking, oh, I have this much, but actually this is how much I was paid, or this is, something will call you out to discriminate about it. And someone will call you out, or you would do that, and you'd put like some new beginning there, and kind of try to eliminate those self-deceptive or confusing or kind of wasteful behaviors in regards to resources and money. Uh, and if you are Virgo, it's happening in your sign, the full moon. Maybe someone else, Neptune in the seventh house, was trying to, was breaking promises, or being sweet and nice, but doing something else that they say. Or maybe you find out something hidden about someone, and you become the one who says, enough, I'm discriminating, I'm putting limits, you know, I'm I'm expecting practical and truthful behaviors, because Virgo is about chastity and purity. Well, the Neptune opposition can mean like someone was either uh, undermining your strength, or Neptune is corrosive, like underwater stone, like undermining your self initiatives or confidence, or maybe someone was deceiving you, swaying you in some way. So kind of this new moon brings the focus on you, and you're like, okay, I'm starting powerful new beginnings in my life, and they especially are connected to removing deceptions from my life and being more critically discriminative. But for all Virgos, fantastic time for new beginnings, 2-3 days after the new moon, so from next week after. But you would have strong intuitions and awarenesses about what you have to do for the next 12 months. And some new ideas will come to them, write them down, because you'll be implementing them for some time after. Then if you're Libra, it's happening in your 12th house. New one in the 12th house is some discrimination about self, that you develop some discrimination about self, undoing behaviors, some critical thinking about addictions, or about subversive people in your life, or hidden people that undermine you in some way, or hidden behaviors that you become more critically aware of. And over the next few weeks, you might try to eliminate them or to purge them, which is Virgo is a purging sign, and even hidden enemies sometimes. All right, if you are Scorpio, it's in your 11th house, this new moon. So, new beginnings in friendships and social groups, maybe forums or networks or internet groups that you're joined with, will happen for you over the next couple of weeks. But they'll be about dissolving certain deceptions as well, and about you becoming more discriminative towards your friends, using critical analysis and critical intelligence to see, to, kind of, when you're building those new beginnings, they have some sort uh, to you'd like to discriminate and to remove deceptions that are coming to you from such groups of people, or if you had such kind of irresponsible behaviors towards them, you say one thing to your friends but do another, you might be called out critically on this thing, so you can be more responsible and more practical, and you can be more, direct and straight with them. Okay, so if you're then uh, Sagittarius, it's happening in your 10th house. That there is some new beginning in regards to your career, in regards to your social status. You might be starting some new career project of some sort, but they might be such that you might have to put a new beginning in your life in regards to career, because there might have been, you discovered that there is some lack of boundaries, and you have to use with authority figures, or something, that even behaviors from your family that might be undermining your social status, because Neptune is in the fourth house, through which you would like to put more discrimination there and purge certain factors that are detracting you for achieving your full career potential, and also purge certain behaviors, personal self-sabotaging behaviors or undermining behaviors or irresponsible behaviors, which is Neptune, or some confusion in regards to your career or goals or direction in your social status and career. So you'll be dissolving some such kind of confusions and moving, hopefully placing new beginnings in your life. And maybe if there was some kind of deception or misunderstanding between you and authority figure, or in regards to some career, it can be, it can be the reason that you're placing some new beginning. Then if you're Capricorn, it's happening in your ninth house, uh, and you're gonna put more discrimination into your belief systems and into your outlook for the future and future goals and plans in some way, which is the ninth house, how we envision the future. And you might actually be called out about some impractical visions or goals and belief systems of yours, but you might yourself basically just realize that you've been too wishy-washy with your beliefs or with your set uh, dreams for the future, or that you've been maybe too unrealistic, and you use some critical thinking to whittle those away. Plus, there might be some new beginnings in regards to higher education, in regards to pre-qualification and studying something that you choose with critical ways, and eliminate some confusions, especially if there were some confusions in regards to what should I study. I'm not sure what is the direction there. Well, now this can crystallize in some way, and you can say over the next 2 weeks, like, no more confusion, and I'm going to use critical and practical thinking to solve that. um, if it's, or about some trip as well. If you're Aquarius, it's happening in your eighth house, the eclipse. So maybe, sorry, the new moon. So there'll be some new, some again eighth house, and it's Neptune is opposing from the second house. Some unclear behaviors about resources, mutual, personal. Maybe some lack of boundaries or lack of restrain about resources and finances, how you be handling your resources and finances and money. You might be called out and criticized, and from a partner to apply critical thinking. So you put some new beginnings in your mutual resources and finances, maybe to rebudget in some way over the next 2 weeks, to use finances with yourself, your business partners, and others in a more practical way, and because there was some blind spot, something you were not aware about financially, that you'll become aware of, that you try to control through your intelligence, Virgo, through your critical thinking, through discrimination, maybe to be more discriminative about where you spend money, who you give money to, in what way. Uh, all right, and then if you're Pisces, it's happening in your seventh house. So it will be about maybe a partner calling you out or you becoming more critical in regards to, and that's why placing a new beginning in your life in some relationship, or a new stage in a relationship or business partnership because of some wishy-washy behavior, in worst case scenario, totally dishonest behaviors or secretive behaviors that you call out on and you discriminate, or some behaviors that have been undermining you, uh, or you might have been doing them yourself because Pisces, Neptune is in your first house, Pisces, but they're reflecting on your relationships, and you might be called out to, or you might have to place a new beginning in your life with much more uh, uh, practical approach and much less. Much being more clear and stating what you need from the relationship, and what, instead of like allowing and hoping that the partner defines those and does the right thing, so you might have to put some Virgoish, in regards to your relationship, some Virgoish, no nonsense practical approach. um, this is what the issue is, instead of sweeping it under the carpet, and that can put some new beginnings in your through your contractual, business, personal relationships, but that are eliminating in some sort some self-deception or confusion, or even some self-undoing behaviors of yours that are undermining those relationships. Whew. And of course, what is helping us during this full moon, new moon, which is opposition Neptune, is the stabilizing aspect from Pluto, a trine, and from Jupiter, a sextile. So, what's helping us to start those new beginnings with more self discrimination and practical approach, and no nonsense approach like Virgo, and more critical thinking, and to create more practical and more clean cut and purge, this area of our life for each signs that I talked is Jupiter and Pluto. Jupiter is high intuition, advice from a mentor, from a wiser person, uh, maybe some higher knowledge that we read, some spiritual lecture that we watch, or someone that mentors us or gives us the right advice. And Pluto is ruthless discrimination as well. And Pluto is maybe even someone with sarcasm pointing this to us, and someone. But because it's an easy trine aspect, it will do it in a way that is not gonna smash us or crush us, but that motivates us to be more discriminative in this situation. Woo! Okay, there we go. That's the longest weekly forecast. I hope it was helpful. So again, check out the services of Tsvetemira Borisova, my teacher, of my first astrology teacher. She's doing amazing deals on rectifications, and personal horoscopes as well. She's considered one of the top 10 in the world astrologers, and now soon introduce her. We'll do interviews with her, and she'll start teaching astrology uh, the way she knows. I mean, like a few of the astrologers I work with, like Marina and Radi, they studied and they're studying still with her. She's the best astrologer in Bulgaria now, so check out her services. I'm flaunting her too much, but she's, yeah, we're gonna do some very interesting videos with her and classes. So thank you. Have a wonderful new week ahead. Enjoy Saturn turning direct, even though it might escalate the situations there. But you can come back to this video for the next 2-3 weeks. It will be useful and it will be meaningful to you for the next 2-3 weeks. Check it from the ascendant, sun, and moon.